Thanks for joining us for our new daily, very short, 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Interview with Ilya. I will tell you that, well, if you're new, we have been doing these interviews with Ilya every Thursday at 11 o'clock Eastern. We've changed to a daily format. The Thursday interviews were usually about 30 minutes long. These daily interviews are going to be 5, maybe 10 minutes long. And the reason why really is that there's so much going on and things are changing so fast. I thought it would be 30 inches. I want to know what that is. Um, Jasper, maybe you'll share with us in the chat. Um, so much is changing and things are changing so fast. I thought if Ilya could make it work for his schedule, it would be great. Oh, 30 minutes. Yes. I see now. Yeah, it's either going to be much shorter, I promise. And I just thought that if Ilya could make it work for his schedule, it would be great to hear from him on a daily basis. What happened today? What happened yesterday? What does he see happening tomorrow? And your questions are going to be very, very helpful. And sometimes he may answer them very briefly. Sometimes we may have to push them off until the next day. But I think this is going to be a very, very exciting format for all of us. And I know he's looking forward to it as well. That being said, let me say that I know this isn't news to any of us, but they are having some power issues ongoingly. We all know that in large parts of Ukraine, including Kyiv, which is where Ilya is. So, I don't mean this to foretell anything about the future, but there is a chance. I chatted with him a half an hour or so ago. He had power. He thought he'd be able to join us, but he just warned me, if something happens and he's not able to join, that's why. So we'll chat here for a few minutes, see if he joins. If he doesn't, believe me, I've got lots to say. So we'll fill these 5 or 10 minutes, whether he makes it or not. And I'm sure there will be times, there will be times where he just can't make it for whatever reason. Um, but I have a high expectation that most days he will be here, and I know he's looking forward to doing it. So, and thank you for the hearts. I know they're really for Ilya, but he's not here, so I will take them, accept them. Thank you very much. So while we're waiting for him, does anybody have any questions about anything that you want to ask? Let's throw the door open to that for a few minutes while we wait and see if he's going to be able to join us. Any questions, anybody? Other than how is Jasper's COVID? I'm so glad, by the way, Jasper. I didn't know you had COVID, but now that we all know, I'm glad to hear that it sounds like you've got a good recovery. Any questions, anybody? No questions. Wow. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm glad you made the transition easily. Again, we'll be here every Monday through Friday at this time. It's 4 o'clock Eastern. It's 11 o'clock in Kyiv. Uh, you'll make the adjustment for whatever your time zone is. While we're waiting for Ilya, I'm going to, as I often do, put a link for the show here. I know Anna loves it when I do that because the next thing then I say is, please share this with your friends and family. So that link is to a landing page for the show. You can sign up for tomorrow and everyday's show. And it's great to do that because then you get a reminder and you don't forget. But you can also use that link to get the archive shows. If you've missed one or you remember hearing something and you want to go back and hear it again, that's a place you can do it. And we're going to archive these short shows as quickly as possible. I'm going to say that it is our goal to get those archived by morning of the next day. So you should be able to see this one, share it with others by the time you wake up in the morning. And we're going to try to make that work as regular as clockwork. Obviously, it's a lot easier when it's a 5 minute show or a 10-minute show than when it's long. So that's our commitment to you. And, we'll see how we do. If we have to adjust that schedule a little bit, that's what we'll do. Uh, anyway, that's one link I want to share with you. The other link I want to share with you is to Ilya's book. We've started to get some really great feedback from people um, about it, which makes me really happy. Not only because I obviously helped with it, but I think the message itself is very, very important. I think you'll learn a lot about Ilya. I think you'll learn a lot about his history and what and how he came to be in the position that he is. I know you all know that he was a member of the State Duma in Russia and that he was the only member of the parliament to vote against the annexation of Crimea. But believe me, there's much more to his story, as you will discover as you're reading the book. He was an oppositionist, as they call them in Russia. He was an oppositionist or in opposition to Putin for many years before that vote on Crimea came along. So that was just one of many times where he opposed Putin. It just happened to be the one that kind of broke the bank, let's just say. It's the one that, it was the point of no return where they, forced him into exile. And you'll begin to understand why and some other things that were happening in Russia that Ilya was really part of the lead of the opposition on. If you know Bill Browder, the name Bill Browder, he wrote a book called Red Notice. He has that was maybe 6 or 8 years ago. He has a new book out called Freezing Order. He is the guy who is behind the what started in the US and now is a global law. I guess I'm saying this properly. In the US, we have what's called the Magnitsky Law, and other countries around the world have adopted this law. And I'm going to try to say this as accurately as I can. What this law does is uh, countries that adapt this law will not allow Russian citizens who are found guilty or accused of human rights violations and I think corruption from entering those countries. So this has been a devastating law for the US and other countries to pass. It's been devastating for Putin because it attacks specifically and directly his oligarchs. It prevents them from going to the places they love to spend their money, like I believe the UK and large parts of Europe and the US. I mean, what's the good of having money if you can't go around and have fun spending it? And it's harder and harder for them to spend it. And then their money is actually sanctioned, so it's taken away from them. So that's called the Magnitsky Law. And Russia, it sounds kind of funny, but it's actually very serious. Russia has the anti Magnitsky Law. By the way, Magnitsky worked for Bill Browder, who wrote these two books, Red Notice and Freezing Order. He was a lawyer for Browder, and wow, we're okay. I think we're going to assume Ilya's not going to make it today, and I'm just going to finish the story. And we're going to keep the show short. But I hope after you hear the story, you do want to pick up the book and Browder's book. By the way, we recommend it in Ilya's book. Browder's books. He has two books. But the anti-Magnitsky law was a law passed in Russia, and there were a couple of parts to it. But how it started was it was Russia's attempt to retaliate against the US for the Magnitsky Law. So there was the Magnitsky Law in the US and the anti-Magnitsky Law in Russia. And it's kind of laughable, frankly, because the anti-Magnitsky Law was to prevent Americans, wealthy Americans who were guilty of human rights violations and things like that, from coming over to Russia and spending money. Well, how many people was that? It, it was, I don't know, a handful maybe, compared to a very large number of Russians who got caught up in our Magnitsky Law, which again is now a global phenomenon. So I'm bringing that up because it played a very large role, as Ilya explains in the book. And you can begin to see his political evolution. I mean, always opposed to Putin, but you could begin to see him evolve as a politician to the point where I'm pretty sure when he knew that when he pushed the button to vote against the annexation of Crimea, that his life was never going to be the same. And it has not been the same since. And he talks about that a lot in the book as well. So let me just, because we've promised to keep this to oh, that's so funny. When we created the show in Beams, there's no way to set it for 5 or 10 minutes. 30 minutes is the minimum. So I just looked at the thing and it says I have 20 minutes left, which means I've already been talking for 10 minutes on a 5-minute show. So I'm going to wrap this up. I just want to give you a little bit of an update on something we talked about on the last show on Thursday. And I really want to get Ilya on here to hear him talk about it directly. And that is they announced on Thursday, I think I read the press release to you, that there is going to be a thing called the first, oh shoot, I wish I had it open here. I'm going to open it on my desk. Hold on a sec here because I want to get this right. It's the first Congress of People's Deputies of Russia. Now, that's a mouthful, but let me explain what it means. It means that in about 2 weeks in Warsaw, there's going to be a Congress, and the delegates, excuse me, of this Congress are all Russian elected officials who were forced into exile. So they're reconstituting all of these people who were elected by the Russian people, who were forced out of the country by Putin, and they're creating what Ilya is calling a parallel parliament. You've heard me say this many times here. You know, my perception of Ilya from the moment I met him was that what he was doing was forming a government that would be prepared to step in when Putin was gone. Now that's becoming public. So they announced via press release. There's been some news reports about it, including in the Kiev Post and in the Polish press about this Congress. There's already 54 delegates who are coming again, and that number will grow, obviously, and we'll keep you posted. But there's already 54 delegates, all elected officials from Russia who were forced into exile, who are coming together in Warsaw to essentially create a new government, begin writing a new constitution, and all of those things. And so you can begin to see that this is very, very real. This is a very significant step. Yeah, Agnieszka, I was hoping you would be here today because I was wondering if you had heard about this, and I'm actually, by email, Agnieszka, I'm going to send you a story from one of your newspapers in, I think, Warsaw about this. Anyway, this is very exciting news, and I really wanted to devote today's show to hearing Ilya talk about it. If you go to his Facebook page, which is Ponomarev, so it's I and then his last name. If you find him on Facebook, he's been talking about it in English quite a bit. You can learn a lot about it there. It's very exciting. I mean, this is a huge step, frankly. So we're going to talk about that with him tomorrow. Electricity willing, assuming he has power to join us to do that. And the other thing I'll tell you, because it's kind of a humorous thing that I was going to tease him about today, is that you may have seen on Friday the Russian, I think it's called the Ministry of Justice, named him and 7 other Russians as foreign agents. And when you visit him on Facebook, you'll see that he is wearing that as a badge of honor to be a foreign agent. I think he's doing his job well as a foreign agent. He's doing everything we would want a foreign agent to do and more. So Neshka saw that. Yeah, I'm sure some others have as well. So we're going to keep these shows short, and I want to keep that promise. And manage expectations of everybody. So I'm going to wrap this up for today. Before I do, uh, please check out the book. There's an ebook available. The hard now you can buy it, download it now, and start reading. The hardcover will be available around November 15th. I know I said this a while ago. We are going to work out a way for everybody who was here in the beginning to get a signed copy. And we're just putting the details together on that right now. So just hold on, stay tuned. Um, and there's a button at the top of the page or near your right that says pay host, or it has a dollar sign on it. I'm the host. Ilya's the host. We're not paid. Every dollar we collect for now is going towards, as you've heard, if you've been here before, we're raising money to send 435 copies of this book signed to members of Congress. It's about a $10,000 bill to do that. So any dollar, anything you can give, when you push that button or at the end of the show, this will pop up. $2 will make a huge difference. Obviously, 50, 100, $1,000 will make an even bigger difference. Anything you can do, please help. Every dollar we collect will go towards paying for those books that will go to members of the U.S. Congress. And I will see you tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for being here.